Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email us. Team Mosso at the1916company.com. It is in the description below. Your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any of our platforms. Please reach out to us directly. We are Team Mosso at the1916company.com for pricing. So in 2008, Patek Philippe launched the Enamel Dial version of the 5130 World Time. 2008 saw the initial 5131. But towards the end of the line, 2017, Patek launched this, the 5131 1P, full bracelet in platinum and designed from the outset to have a bracelet fitted. That's what 1P means. It means there is a bracelet and it is in platinum. That /1 always means a bracelet at Patek Philippe. Taking a quick look at the watch, it is considerably larger than subsequent Patek World Times, and larger than previous Patek World Times, meaning that this is sort of a standalone watch among the World Times series in terms of wrist presence and size. Now, it was discontinued after 2021, so it had a production window of 2017 to 2021, and these were always application pieces to be sold only upon approval of the prospective buyer. Here's how it measures. 39.5 millimeters in diameter, but it actually wears larger, partly due to the presence of a crown guard, which went away on subsequent offerings, partly due to the integration of the bracelet. Now, it's not a thick watch at 10.9 millimeters thick. At 50.2 millimeters from end link to end link, it does have quite a span across the wrist, but the bracelet doesn't add a whole lot of span. If you just measure the case, lug-to-lug, even if you were to put it on a strap, it's still 49.3 millimeters across the wrist, with a 21 millimeter spacing between the lugs, which is quite broad. Taking a look, there is a diamond between the lugs, and notice how there's a little recess in the end link so that you can see it, because this is a platinum Patek Philippe of the modern era. It has a top Vesselton diamond between the lugs at 6 o'clock. Also note, in order to avoid marring the Cloisonné Enamel Dial, Patek Philippe's maker's mark and city of origin on the bezel. My wrist is 16 centimeters in circumference, and you can see that this watch is large, being 50.2 millimeters from end link to end link. It wears substantially. I would say it's almost like wearing a 43 millimeter round watch, and that's saying something for a watch that's nominally 39.5. I recommend it for a wrist of 15 centimeters circumference or larger, though you can see being fairly thin with a domed bezel, it will slide easily underneath the cuff. So in that regard, it is fairly compact, and it is quite compatible with a dress sleeve. But in a white metal on a bracelet, it's a little bit sportier than a conventional Patek Philippe World Time. So this is a watch that can be worn casually as well as formally. Taking a quick look now at the bracelet, it's a beautiful piece, a 5-link design, all polished links. Note how open and airy it is with perforations in between. I wouldn't really call them perforations so much as gaps. They add a lot of flexibility to make this a very comfortable and supple bracelet. But if you're in a place where it gets hot, the Middle East, Miami, Southern California, it's really nice. Singapore, another example. It's really nice to have a bracelet with a little bit of ventilation built in. But more than that, it's just nice to have a bracelet. You're not going to be sweating into a strap that becomes clammy and molders. You can always just rinse this off under the faucet. You don't have to spend a few $100s in straps on a regular basis to replace the band. The bracelet is forever. Now you can see here, we have removable links fixed by pins and sleeves, and Patek has a very specific reason for doing this. And the reason is that people tend to strip out flathead screws, and when you strip out a flathead screw, it is now stranded in the link. I understand that reservation. I still wish these were screw-fixed removable links, but Patek has an unimpeachable case for the pins and sleeves because you cannot wind up paying a fortune to get a stranded screw removed. You don't have to worry about that with pins and sleeves. Taking a look at the opposite side of the bracelet here, you could see we have a few more removable links, so you're going to be able to size this precisely. A double folding clasp. You can see it features ceramic spring-loaded pin snaps, so when you close this, the platinum clamshell can't aggress against the ceramic. It can't reduce the tolerances or the tightness because the platinum can't wear down the ceramic, so it's going to remain snappy over time. Calatrava across, it's the logo of the brand. You will find it on the crown. You will find it on the case back. The case here is fluid, sexy, and sinuous. And you can see that the 5130 family was all about handsome compound curves, whereas later world times tended to be more angular. The watch features a dial that is a radial sunburst metallic underneath the cities of reference. This is the legendary Patek Philippe Louis Coutier system. Now, Louis Coutier is a watchmaker who in the 1930s created a radial world time display system. So the way this works here is that you put your city of reference up at the top. So Paris is going to be our stand-in for Geneva, which is Patek Philippe's city of origin. We know that because it says so. But right now, you are looking at 5 a.m. in Paris and Geneva. You know that because the little 5 on the 24-hour reference ring is adjacent to Paris. You could see in Midway, it is actually 5 p.m. The opposite is always opposite. So you could see in Moscow it's 7 a.m. and it is 7 p.m. in Anchorage. So that's how you read this. You have a reference hour next to each reference city. Now, there are more than 24 time zones, but the primary 24 are each represented by reference cities. Now, we have these two semicircles. One is blue with the moon, one is silver and brushed with the sun. Those are the regions where it is, roughly speaking, daytime and roughly speaking, nighttime. Now, if you want to change your city of reference, you press this little button up at the top, and you can see not only does the 24-hour reference ring move, but the local hour also moves. Now I am in Midway, and since this is early June, we are commemorating the anniversary of the Battle of Midway. You will also note that when you turn the crown, you can set the hour independently. Let me try to put this hand where it can do least damage, because we're going to look at the Cloisonné Enamel Dial. A standard 5130 features a guilloche dial center, whereas the 5131 features grand faux enamel with cloisonne. Now, the cloisonne are little gold wires that are shaped by hand by an artisan to create the images of the land masses. And so you can see we got a lot going on here. This is the northern hemisphere as seen roughly from the North Pole. Taking a quick look, you can see that grand faux enamel is employed. This is on a precious metal base, and different amounts of each color are used to control the darkness. That's how you get this lighter tone close to shore where the deep water tends to give way to the continental shelf. So you have 3 different things: different colors used, colors blended, and then different weights or applications of colors used in order to create different intensity of color. We also have the cloisonne. All of the application has to be in between these little gold wires, and the whole thing has to be fired sometimes more than 20 times at 800 degrees centigrade, which risks damaging all of these applications. Not only the gold itself, which can melt, but the vitreous enamel, the glass here. This is all cooked, and the glass has to be melted enough so that it sets, but not so much as to destroy the rest of the dial. It can crack, it can explode. It is a very slow-going process. So there's 2 arts here: the cloisonné as well as the enameling. That is why this is an application piece. From the best to the very best customers of Patek Philippe. Now on the reverse side, you can see how it's driven. There is a caliber 240 HU for heure universelle. It is the world time version of the 240 micro-rotor, a movement that bowed back in 1977. You see we have a screw in case back here, but it's still 30 meters water resistant. The micro-rotor makes the watch as thin as a manual, with a big open, pleasurable caseback vista, unobstructed as you'd get on a manual, but with the convenience of automatic winding. You can see there's a micro-rotor that sits in the same plane as the rest of the watchmaking, rather than blocking. 22 carats, it sits on hybrid ceramic bearings for better efficiency. 3 hertz beat rate, we got a 48-hour power reserve. 6-position adjustment, 1 more than a standard chronometer. And we have 33 pivot jewels. Now, the watch from the factory by Patek was guaranteed to run no worse than -3 + 2 seconds a day, which is far in excess of chronometer standards. Part of the reason for that is, yes, the 6-position adjustment, but also the fact that it has an anti-magnetic silicone Spiromax hairspring that's also very resistant to temperature shift, and then a free-sprung Gyromax style regulator that's both more shock resistant, and thanks to these eccentric masses on the rim of the balance, also capable of being set much more precisely than a mobile stud index. We have engine-turned perlage in 2 sizes on this base plate, locating pegs to locate the balance bridge on the base plate. Those are polished on their top. Screw heads are black polished with chamfered slots in circumference. We have beautiful abrasive wheel stripes or Côte de Genève across the bridges, and you can actually see that we have a mirrored anglage, which is started mechanically but finished manually, probably by a buffer tool on a drill tip, so it has this nice rounded mirrored shine to finish. There's also satination on the ratchet wheel as well as the train wheels, and it looks quite good. If you love this watch, reach out to Team Mosso at the 1916company.com for purchase and pricing details.